on Kamilla Singh's show today, we have panelists here to be talking about issues that happen in politics in last 2 weeks. But before we go there, we want to acknowledge the land that we are on. We are on Musqueam, Silvertooth, and Kwantlen Nation. So this is unceded territories. So every time I do something, I want to acknowledge that. That is very important for all of us, all the immigrants that we share the land, and they are letting us share the land with immigrants and with us. So having said that, might as well get into the political panel back in the studio. And there are some of the issues that we're going to be talking about, and there's a lot has happened in last 2 weeks. And on my right is Sheenan Sharania. She's a motivational speaker. She's a consultant. She's an educator. She does a lot of things in the community. And with her is Annie Ohana. She's a school teacher, activist, community activist, advocate, and you have seen her, heard her in a lot of media panels or on media in Metro Vancouver and all that. So these are our panelists today, and there is a lot to talk about what has taken place recently. Especially, we might as well start with politics, our own politics, which is provincial politics. So first of all, I want to ask them that all of a sudden, and I don't think, I can speak for myself, that I know John Horgan might not be able to run in the next election, which is coming in 2024. But I was really shocked to see him stepping down now. So I'm going to ask them if that was a shock for them or they were predicting that he might step down, because the reason given is that he doesn't have the same kind of energy to be able to move on, and he gets tired and he wants to take some time off and be with the family. So I'll ask you, Annie, what...
Yeah, I don't think it was expected 100%. I think, yes, they've had 2 elections now, and typically sometimes at least like a leadership race. But I think many people were, when I say happy, I just mean that there wasn't something so wrong that they would have kicked him out, as happened with Jason Kenney in Alberta or other places. So it wasn't expected, but he had a second bout with cancer. He did get COVID. There was a lot happening that I think for him, I remember him saying, that 6-year commitment, he couldn't do that, right? That was something that he wasn't sure about. So I think it was a smart move, I think, at the end of the day. He has the right to his life, right? And he's given his time, his service for a very long time as an MLA. So here we are in the midst of what will be a leadership race come fall.
Actually, the leaders step down when they have done something or they are low in polls and all that. Yeah. He is still running the highest premier in the country. And his polls and his ratings are pretty high. So for him to be stepping down that kind of time when everybody sees the work he has done and support him, it is a little bit, because people step down when there is some kind of scandal happening, like you say, Jason Kenney and things like that. But for him to be going out so clean when he's running high in polls, I was a little bit, not upset, but surprised. Yeah. So do you have any opinion on...
So I have a very bird's eye view. I don't get so much into the details, but as she mentioned that he went through a cancer bout. I know, I was aware of that, and he's away from that now. As far as I know, he's cancer-free, right? And I think that if he's stepping down in this period with high numbers, like you said, it's a good thing for him. To take it from a personal standpoint, as Annie also mentioned, that he has a right to live his own life. He also went through the whole COVID thing, right? He was upfront with it, and that was brand new for everybody in the world. So I think he did a great job with it. I'm just looking forward to see what's happened and what's the replacement and what their agenda or plan is after he leaves.
Great.
I think the province will take a turn, for sure.
Because we wouldn't be able to find, it is a very big feat to fill, because John Horgan is John Horgan. So now, Annie, on the next question is coming to me. Who do you think will make the next leader? There are some names floating around, and recently couple days ago, I had that Ravi Kalon is not going to run because he has very young family and things like that. After talking to them, he's planning not to run in this leadership race. And he is openly throwing his support behind the Attorney General. So, do you think other people are going to be coming up, or that is the race?
I don't know. There's a lot of people saying maybe Adrian Dix might, right? That there's a lot of like the main portfolio holders, right, that people are talking about.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the history of the NDP over the last like decade and a bit, there have been several people there, right? Ravi's maybe relatively new,
Very
but David
new.
Eby, Adrian Dix, they're long-time players and holding very large portfolios. So certainly that's something that, David Eby, if you think about who's making some of the major decisions, David's always in that room, right? For sure. I think what was exciting about Ravi, and I'd say I do know Ravi, so, I'm just saying, because I'd said, maybe you should try, to his cousin who works at my school. But the reality is, I think people were excited because it is a newer face, right? It is a person of color, right? South Asian, right? There's always that, idea of like, how do we get equity and representation into our politics? So it's not just all, I'm sorry to say this, but it's not just all, white men kind of running the show, right?
Yes,
So I think that was where some of the, excitement was about. But good on Ravi, right? If he feels that, family has to come first and not quite yet, then so be it. There is one more name I heard, oh gosh, I forget the name. Is it Port Coquitlam's mayor?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, I don't know
I want
his
to say
name.
May, but I don't.
Yeah.
It's not coming to me. But in any case, could there be an outsider coming in? I would say, because the worst case scenario of what the Liberals tried to say about the NDP has not occurred. Our economy has not collapsed. It hasn't been this doom and gloom scenario. I would think someone from the inside might be able to come forward and
Any
most
women?
NDPers would support that.
Is there any women?
Oof, that's a really good question. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. I guess it would be up to the women.
I think nobody has even come up, or is it because we
Yeah.
have 6 months until December,
Yeah.
and maybe everything is happening so quickly right now. So maybe there would be some people who are thinking, maybe they are just gonna dwell on
like
it.
you said, it's filling John Horgan's shoes.
Yeah.
And you have Kevin Falcon, who's
On the-
very experienced on the other side. So, what I would love to see, like a Rashna Singh or
Yeah.
someone like that, I'm not sure if that, by the party, like whatever
Yeah,
the decisions are.
yeah.
I don't know if in the party that would be something that this is the time for that, right? I think
Okay.
they might want to go into the next election as strong as possible. Yeah.
How about you?
So, as I said earlier, I think, and I think I want to echo what Annie is saying as well, because the country is not, the province is not doing bad,
Yes,
right? It's
yeah.
not doom and gloom. But whoever takes it over, I think there's a different agenda coming. Like we all see that, right? There's a cashless society that's being presented. All of that is coming into play worldwide, globally, nationally, provincially. So personally, how I understand politics is not from the forefront. How I understand it is that there's already a game planned, and that's going to come forth,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And for the public to be happy about it, maybe new faces can bring a sense of novelty into it. Yet the agenda has to be already set to face what's already coming to the world, which one of the biggest things I see is a cashless society. And we experienced a flick of that with Rogers the other day when
Rogers,
Interact went down, right?
Yeah.
What the reaction of the public was. So yeah, I think that it's already in play, and I'm very curious as to who steps up.
I think we still have a lot of time, and I think this is not going to end here. We're going to keep on talking about this for a while. And while changing the subject, because you just talk about cashless society, just think about whatever happened on Thursday, 16 or 15 to 16 hours, there was no service from Rogers or Fido. And this is the second time it happened in last 15 months. And they thought, because I thought in the beginning there may be some kind of cybersecurity. Now they have came up, there was no such thing like that. But do you think, and they are going to take over Shaw at some point in time, there are still talks going on about that. Do you think these people be able to have Shaw on board and have this kind of not so prepared to, because a lot of people are very upset about that. People were not able to get cab, people were not able to buy food, the debit machine wasn't working, and all those things. It's just like country shut down. 1 million people in BC were affected by that. That's a huge, any big communication supplier, and we pay the highest amount of cell phone not in the country but in the world. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, I was in Ottawa, and in Ontario it seems everything's Rogers. So, and to me what I saw, because I was trying to get to the airport, like everybody had to arrive early because we were all freaked out. A lot of people didn't have cash on them.
Yes.
So trying to scramble to find a way to get cash, that was something a lot of us were sharing, which was interesting, right?
Yeah.
Collective, like that's fine, pay me back later, it's not a big deal. Taxi drivers, because we were taxiing to the airport, that were losing calls because they weren't able to get their calls. So you had a lot of people's businesses be affected, right? People that lost money. I heard things like 911 calls are being affected. So who knows what kind of, horrific realities, like health-wise, might have occurred for some people, right? In that 15 hours. I guess to me, I'm seeing two things. Number one is this should be a human right, because as you say, right, if we're in a cashless society, if this is, if we are attached to our phones, because everything happens through internet and phones, then this should be available to everyone. So it's kind of like a nationalist kind of like take it over and just make it a human right. That's the one side. And then there are other people saying, well, let's add more competition.
Yes.
So Rogers and Shaw should not be coming together. Yeah. There should be, and even, we have Fido, we have all these other companies, but they're all owned by these like Bell and Rogers. So, it's interesting. It's like there's two different ways of looking at it. I don't think they're against each other, but just the idea of like people are not sure. People are saying either, well, there's no competition. That's why, right? But then at the same time, even in competition, are they seeing it as it is a fundamental necessity now?
Yeah.
It's not anymore that I can be one or the other.
Yes.
It's if you don't, you're completely out of the loop. Right? And you even can't engage in everyday life if you don't have some sort of cell phone, right? If you don't have some sort of debit card, right? So I don't know. I think that's where the debate is what direction, or do we go in both directions? I don't know. But Rogers and Shaw, because I remember it didn't go through. I think
no, it hasn't gone through.
So I don't like.
There is a petition going, I think.
Yeah, I would say it's even less now possible.
Yeah, that definitely puts a halt, or at least hinders the progress of it or the speed of it. As Annie said, that's how I see it, there's a fork in the road, right? There's should they come together or should we have more options? Because it is a monopoly in Canada, and it's been talked about for years. I remember something went viral a few years ago where you just mentioned Canada has the highest cell phone plan. And that was going viral on the internet. Australia is this much, and New Zealand is this much, and why are we paying so much? So we need to have competitors. Now, what I seen happen, and I might be mistaken in this, but the way I seen it was Chatter came into play, and all these other ones came, and Rogers picked them all up. Yes, we have competitors. No, we own them all.
I think Virgin belongs to Rogers, and Chatter belongs to Fido.
That's right, and Fido belongs to Rogers, right?
Yeah.
So it's all under Rogers anyways. So that threw a wrench in things too, but I think that quieted people down in terms of just debating for it, but this raises that same question up again, and I don't think there's more, as far as I see it again, I don't think there's more weight on either side of the fork in the road. We're literally in the middle of it, and it's really going to depend on the citizens and the consumers what the decision is. I was affected by it, and the first immediate reactions I noticed was inconvenience and frustration. Right? And if you're not visiting that you are frustrated, you're inconvenient, you might want to calm down a bit, right? And most people don't do that, as far as I know. They act from it, so they go, oh my God, this is just... And you know what, like Annie mentioned, businesses were losing money, so they have a right to even react in that further sense, because they are actually losing revenue. They're just coming out of a COVID hump, and they're facing another hump like this, and we didn't know how long it's going to last. So that was a big thing as well.
Yeah. And 15 hours, long time. Because I have an elderly mother that I talk to her 2 or 3 times in a day, and she calls me and all that. We were not able to do, and we don't even... I think they were talking about there's only 4 pay phones. Who uses the pay phone anymore? And even if you see somewhere, it's broken anyhow. And landlines. Nobody, our kids even don't know what landline is. because they never been brought up with landlines, right? So
And I was actually very curious, as Annie mentioned, 911 calls. That's one of the things I read in the article, that was unavailable.
yes.
So I was actually very curious that when it comes back up, are we going to face all these, are we going to hear about all the
I think
situations
maybe
that-
sooner or later, because I don't think
Yeah,
people
I
are
haven't
saying.
heard any, so I think
Yeah.
it's good for now.
Yeah,
But
in case there was an emergency, somebody was having
That's right.
delivery, somebody was going to have a heart attack, call
Violence.
911. Yeah, so
Violence can break out,
ambulance
yeah.
or fire or all the.
I think one thing to think about is, again, what I saw was that, people did come together a little bit, and yes, maybe we knew each other, like I was at a conference and it was all
Yeah.
teachers, so there was an understanding there, right? Like, let's help each other out. And I
Yeah.
know that to me, I'm hopeful, that when it's frustration, you don't just start attacking each other, it's
Yeah,
like,
no.
okay, maybe you come back tomorrow to pay for that coffee,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I know that
And they
art
did,
galleries was free,
and it
right?
was really good.
Yeah, so like, are there ways to mitigate that crisis, right, at that time? But speaking as someone at the Surrey School District, that we had numerous times last year where we lost all internet, and so that means no photocopying, like almost nothing, like the entire system is locked in. Very frustrating. Very frustrating. And also, like, some of it was cyber attacks, right? So it's something that we have to resolve here. If we're really, if all our eggs are in this one basket of, like, internet and, kind of wireless, what happens when
Yeah.
emergencies arise? Because let's hope nothing went wrong, that
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
But I didn't realize.
People
I
are
didn't
angry
realize that
right now
911
and they
would've
are
been-
expressing
Well, they
their.
did release a statement that they were, I think, reinstalling their main routers.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
what
was the
I.
Right, that was,
initial-
yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think was the same thing last time.
Yeah.
If I
Was it?
recall. I think
Okay.
so. Something about, like, maintenance, and then something went wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question I have, there's a new hospital coming up in Surrey. And I think the announcement is, I think it might start, the shovel might go in the ground next year. But people, even before they have decided where the hospital and all that, but there will be no maternity ward. And the Surrey hospital cannot handle the amount of people we are moving or they are moving to Surrey. Do you think it's a good plan for them if they are building this big, huge hospital? And there was a news about the South Asian woman who had a miscarriage, and it was in the news the other day that even doctors, there was no ultrasound, nothing was done, and she said, go take Tylenol or something, go home. And while she was still there, her husband was running after trying to get some nurse or doctor, then she had
This
a
was in
miscarriage.
the middle of COVID, was it?
Right now, last week.
Or was it this last
COVID,
week? There was an
so-
incident similar to that in the middle of COVID
Yeah,
where
there
a
was
woman
one
denied.
before, but this was another one that was making the headline. So if they're building such a huge hospital, why are they not thinking about having a mat ward in the new facility?
I'll let the ladies answer first.
Smart move. Yeah, I mean, it is a woman's issue, but also just generally,
yeah.
Surrey's growing,
I
and,
know.
and we know who's coming, and it's the same with schools. Like, they're never in front of the ball,
Yeah.
they're always behind the ball.
Yeah.
I think this is a situation, because I know they said, oh, well, if the numbers change. Well,
Well,
right,
how,
but then you have to construct a whole new thing. It's going to take, more money, more time. God forbid, women need that service now. They can't get it. So I'm not sure why it's not just in the plan. Like, just why not? No one's going to complain if the ward isn't full all the time.
Yeah.
If anything, it's there. And also, you're thinking about the Fraser Valley.
Yeah.
We see situations where people have to go to Royal Columbian or VGH. Like, we know that it's a whole
Yeah.
part of a system, right? During COVID, a lot of the cases from the north needing to come down here.
Yeah.
So, like, all these things, right, come into play. And God forbid we have another wave.
Yeah.
Maybe you need that mat ward.
Yeah.
Because that one hospital is so overwhelmed with COVID that they
Yeah.
have to, rejig things. So, yeah, I don't know if that's a good move. And I don't know enough about kind of Depender might be the best person to ask here.
Yeah.
But I think it isn't a smart move. I think it's best to just go, let's add that to the plan, have it there, and God forbid, because we've seen several cases now
Yeah.
where women weren't given the proper service.
Yeah.
Just have it there. I really, to me, if you tell me, with all the recent museum news,
Yeah.
if you tell me we're going to spend however many millions to build a mat ward, I'm not going to be against that.
Yeah.
I think most BCers
Yeah,
or Surrey
yeah.
folk will not
Somebody
say,
will
no,
use it,
don't
yeah.
spend money on a mat ward.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a good, fiscal, it's a moral issue, right? We need to make sure that mothers, children are safe as they're brought into the world, right? I went through a very hard situation when I was 9 with my mom and mat wards. So I know the value of having a mat ward and having the best services available because when the child unfortunately will not make it or there's a troubling pregnancy, you need all hands on deck. And being forced to go, all the way through a city to get to another facility, so much stress, not the right time to do that. So yeah, I'm really concerned largely in terms of in Surrey, and I guess it's provincial as well, when it comes to schools, when it comes to hospitals, like why are we always behind the ball? What's the problem with investing now, thinking long term, so that then we don't always end up with these crisis moments of not having enough? Because this hospital should have been built a
long time ago. 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a very general standpoint here because just as you were speaking, I was thinking it just makes no logical sense. If the city is growing, the population is growing, housing is growing, obviously people are going to have build their families, create families. It doesn't make any sense to not have a mat ward. So I don't know why they would not have it, or maybe they're not showing it on other plans that they might bring it forth.
Or maybe later on.
Like that
Who
would
knows,
make some
might-
logical sense that,
that's
you know what guys, we have another plan.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it matches the population growth, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think that's where it's at, right? The
I
level of
think-
the population's there. But I think when it comes to training nurses, training facilities, like why not? To me, it makes sense to then just have it there and then be able to use it for whatever until the need arises. Yeah.
So my next question is, bring it back to Surrey again, about the RCMP versus Surrey Police Department.
she asks the very
know,
non-controversial
right?
questions, right?
Oh, yeah.
I see both of them out in uniform.
Yes.
And in full force.
Yeah.
I am just thinking in my head that we are paying for the RCMP and we are paying for the Surrey Police Department.
Yeah.
So is that a need or necessary to do that now? They are separate.
This is what happens when political games get in the way of what needs to change. So no doubt, citizens of Surrey felt that we needed some change, right?
Right, of
that
course,
it would
yeah.
be great to have people on the ground that understood Surrey residents, understood cultural differences, right? Like these were all needs, right? And I don't like it when Surrey is labeled as gang town. We're not, right? We really are not. But whatever the situations are, the need to provide those services.
Yeah.
What happened was politics got in the way. Was mayoral races and municipal elections that really muddied the water, to be honest. So I don't blame the RCMP or Surrey Police
uniform.
or whatever, right? I know things have gotten very messy, but like I don't. To me, it's why was this ever a political decision? Because when you look at the transition plan, I hit any forensic work. There's so many different labs that. The RCMP, they're the ones who do that work. They're a national force.
Yep.
So
And they get
even
all
the
kinds
money,
of funding.
Yeah.
Because with Surrey Police, the funders, the property tax is gonna go.
Exactly.
And you all, whoever lives in Surrey will be paying for it.
So-
But if there was an integration that, okay, even if they wanted to introduce, and they work hand in hand with RCMP, I can see that. And what will happen if this mayor is not on the mayor's chair?
Right.
What will happen then?
Yeah, I think that when you read the transition plan, there's a lot of money in here, but we're still going to have this mixture.
Yeah.
I think people don't quite realize that. So I don't know. I think it's a bad sign, to be honest, right? That we're here. There's all these questions. The money keeps being spent. The bottom line is, are Surrey residents more safe?
Yeah.
Or do Surrey residents have access to localized, culturally appropriate, like all the things that people had brought up? Has this been achieved yet? I don't think so. So I don't know, because there's just too much politics to really understand what is actually going down on the ground. I see that, some people think RCMP should stay. Okay, right? Like to me, I don't know where that answer is. I would have to say, from an abolitionist perspective, we want a community that can live, healthy, happy, safely together.
And feel safe, yes.
And to me, in schools, I see mental health as a major issue.
Yeah.
I see the need for counselors as a major issue. Even healthcare services, major issue. Living wage, major issue. Like, these are not things that police handle.
Yes.
So all this money is going towards policing.
Yes.
But I think, having spoken to officers, a lot of these answers are not by boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to find ourselves in that situation. So after all this is finally resolved, however it is, we're going to find ourselves with still similar issues that have nothing to do with what the shield says
Yeah.
on a person's uniform. So there are people in our societies that say, policing is not the answer here.
Yeah.
There are other larger issues we need to look at, racism, etc., to actually resolve the problems that end up being under police purview. So I don't know. I honestly I think I know people have very strong opinions, but to me I'm angered that why was this not an actual decision on safety rather than some political gamesmanship to say, look what I brought to you.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
Personally, right? So like when I go vote in October, whatever the policing situation looks like, I am not going to credit that to anybody.
Yeah.
Because I don't see
Likewise.
it as a net positive right now.
Very great points, actually. For me, when I look at the transition there, like what comes to mind first of all is that they have to use a framework, right? And forgive my ignorance here because I know nothing about police, as both of you know, and I'm complete opposite is my experience.
No, that's good though. That's good. We need people with
No
that
pressure
experience
to
My
too.
experience is
Opposite.
on the other side
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
spectrum.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, there's an observation there, right? And as far as I see, Abbotsford Police, Vancouver Police, Delta Police, I would assume that they would use that as a framework of how that's been going. So, to their credit, from their side, I think that the assumption would be that they would want to scrutinize more, right? Get more into the details of the community, therefore bring in a police force instead of a national
local
force.
yeah.
Okay, so credit to that, but with the framework of Abbotsford, Delta, and Vancouver, and as dare I say, because it's been on the news already, so I'll say it, there's been internal politics and
all the
drama
time, yeah.
in those departments. So who's to say that's not going to happen here and where that's going to go? That has to be considered, not to say that that is going to happen.
Yeah.
At the same time, RCMP, in the eyes of the public and the results that we have,